The hero cop is arguably our most American character.
I mean, I feel like a combination of Bruce Springsteen and Sylvester Stallone out there. I don't know whether I'd be busting bad guys or signing autographs. Kind of like being a star.
And across decades of film and TV shows, we've always seen the world through their point of view. The cop has become the default protagonist of American storytelling, and on TV especially, crime is our favorite kind of story, accounting for our longest-running franchises, our most popular sitcoms, and our most prestigious cable dramas.
Good cop and bad cop left for the day. I'm a different kind of cop.
It's easy to see why we love crime stories.
Police! Get over there!
They're basic morality plays that put the world into a clear binary of cops and robbers, good guys and bad guys.
This is where the forces of good prepare to fight the forces of evil.
And they give us the vicarious thrill of seeing mysteries solved and justice served.
You are done, Doctor. You're done.
The hero cop reassures us that, as the police have often reminded us, there is a thin blue line standing between civilization and anarchy.
We are the thin blue line between order and chaos. You take yourself out of the equation, who knows what's gonna happen?
A 2019 study even found that Americans trusted the police more than any journalist, religious leader, or politician. That we believe them to be not only good at their jobs, but also fair, accurate, and compassionate. It's an image that's been reinforced across more than a century of hero cop entertainment.
Being a policeman is an endless, glamourless, thankless job that's gotta be done. I know it too, and I'm damn glad to be one of them.
But as we've become increasingly aware of police brutality and misconduct, and borne witness to cops injuring and even killing the citizens they're sworn to protect, we've begun to question these conceptions.
Patrolling officer on his beat is the one true dictatorship in America.
As pop culture fantasies clash with the ongoing realities in our streets, critics have increasingly derided many police stories as propaganda, even calling for them to be abolished.
There is no excuse for you. Come on, the badge and the gun, now.
How did the story of the hero cop become such a pervasive, controversial force in our culture? And does this character still have a future?
I'm too old for this.
Here's our take on this most American of myths, and whether it may be time for the hero cop to turn in their badge.
There are no heroes anymore, Bishop. Only men who follow orders.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all of our new videos. This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an online learning community where millions of people come together to take classes that fuel their creative journey. If you're one of the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description below, you'll get 2 free months of Skillshare Premium. So become a member today and start exploring your creativity for less than $10 a month. Cops have been patrolling our screens since the advent of film, but they weren't always heroes. Silent movies like the Keystone Cop series portrayed police as bumbling, incompetent clowns. And as early as 1910, the International Association of Chiefs of Police was condemning movies where the police are sometimes made to appear ridiculous, especially compared to charismatic movie gangsters.
I don't see nothing, I don't hear nothing. When I do, I don't tell a cop.
Or private detectives.
And suddenly, the whole plot became clear to me.
The cops in these movies were almost never the protagonists. But as growing film productions needed shooting permits and extra security, and Hollywood's earliest stars became embroiled in embarrassing public scandals that needed covering up, studio bosses began to see the value in cooperating. In 1934, Hollywood began enforcing the Hays Code.
We must be on the lookout for scenes or action or dialogue which are likely to give offense.
A set of strict moral guidelines that, among other things, declared that criminals would always be portrayed as unsympathetic, and cops would be treated with respect. Since movies about gangsters were still big business, Hollywood found a workaround by making films centered on the men who hunted them.
Rain or shine, the special agents are ready for combat with public enemies.
In 1935, gangster movie star James Cagney went legit with the box office smash G-Men, which replaced the crook protagonist with a daring FBI lawman.
Yeah, he's taking a shower. Any message?
There ain't any shower there, copper.
Heralding the dawn of the hero cop.
We're going to make the word government poison to them if it's the last thing we ever do.
G-Men was the first of many films made under the watchful eye of FBI director J. Edgar Hoover.
Let's ask J. Edgar Hoover.
In 1954, Hoover even had Congress pass a law requiring that any depictions of his agency get his approval. The nation's top cop thus became a de facto producer on films like 1959's The FBI Story, forcing director Mervyn LeRoy to reshoot scenes that weren't sufficiently flattering, and even making a cameo as himself.
I am your new director. I did not ask for the position, but now that I have it, I intend to give it the best I have.
Hoover exerted similar control over ABC's 1965 series, The FBI, including personally auditioning its lead, Ephraim Zimbalist, signing off on every script, and even vetoing guest stars like Bette Davis due to her presumed communist ties.
On Sunday morning, he left the house. Since he was a communist, we knew he wasn't going to church.
Hoover recognized immediately that film and television had the power to shape public perception of law enforcement, and he seized control of it for decades.
Even if you and the whole FBI find the killer, you're not going to bring him to trial.
Why don't we see what happens, huh?
But by far the most influential form of copaganda was a show that, ironically, promised just the facts.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet began in 1949 as a radio serial starring its creator, Jack Webb, as the stoic, straight-laced Sergeant Joe Friday.
My name's Friday.
Webb wanted to depict police work authentically, using actual cases drawn from the official files of the Los Angeles Police Department.
For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law.
The LAPD agreed, under the condition that it would approve every script, ensuring Dragnet would portray cops as competent, upstanding, and always getting their man. The Dragnet TV series premiered in 1951.
I guess that's her business, Tanner, how she lived. We're trying to find out how she died.
The same year as a violent LAPD assault on 7 civilians that came to be known as Bloody Christmas. But under the department's supervision, Dragnet never touched on the reality of the era's many incidents of police brutality.
The fact is, more people are living better right here than anywhere else ever before in history.
And its morally upright, square-jawed fantasy of the hero cop would dramatically shape not only future police stories, but also the real-life cop's public image. As police departments continued to serve as technical consultants on the cop shows that Dragnet inspired, they also gave studios access to resources like police buildings, patrol cars, shooting permits, and even uniformed officers as extras, all in exchange for dictating how they would be portrayed. This realism made the cop show even more exciting, and the cop show quickly became one of the most foolproof formulas for TV success. The hero cop was suddenly everywhere.
Car 54, where are you?
You know, all that Hollywood crap about the karate expert and a one-punch cop is
a lot of Hollywood crap.
While J. Edgar Hoover and Dragnet shaped our idea of the heroic lawman, it was former LAPD officer Joseph Wambaugh who helped turn them into a complex protagonist with his 1971 novel, The New Centurions. Wambaugh ushered in a new era that humanized cops as flawed and cynical, prone to alcoholism, adultery, and emotional outbursts, and making mistakes.
You killed him! You killed my father! He was chasing the robber and you killed him!
Heroic not for what they did, but for what they endured.
The public don't understand. Lawyers, judges don't understand. We see the victims. We know what crime does to people because we see them like nobody else does.
In Wambaugh's own cop shows, Police Story and The Blue Knight, the police were working-class heroes with anxious lives and strained marriages.
Please let me in.
I just can't go back to work.
Susceptible to injury and post-traumatic stress disorder.
How do you do it, Casey? What's that? Keep your head straight.
This more humanistic depiction of policing mirrored the Vietnam-era disillusionment felt in other 70s and 80s films about beaten-down cops at odds with corruption.
Hey, Frank, you want a piece of this?
No, I want to fill out the arrest card.
Or weary soldier cops under siege in an urban battlefield.
Why would anybody shoot at a police station?
These tensions and that humanizing approach would come together in Steven Bochco's and Michael Kozol's landmark 80s series Hill Street Blues.
You want an open relationship? You got an open relationship.
Viewers saw the cops of Hill Street Station, as the writer Joyce Carol Oates put it, as figures of Sisyphus rolling their rocks up the hill and the next morning rolling them down again and again. This hero cop persevered at a great personal cost in a world of ever-present danger.
Let's be careful out there.
Hill Street Blues' sense of empathy would greatly influence subsequent cop shows like Cagney and Lacey, Law & Order, and Bochco's own NYPD Blue.
You're gonna make good detectives, guys. Give yourselves time.
Thanks. We're real glad to be working for you, Sarge.
Contributing to our perception of cops as sympathetic people who heroically put their lives on the line.
You starved your 27-year-old daughter her entire life.
It's too bad we can't rain down some biblical punishment on you.
Amanda.
Of course, not everyone wanted their hero cops to be human. As Joseph Wambaugh told the Washington Post, the network always wanted to stop this damn talking. Enough already. Come on, let's have a cop that can chase somebody down and beat the hell out of them. Those kinds of cops were already on the big screen, responding to a broken system not with tears, but violence.
You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
And TV answered this call to action with shows like s.w.a.t. that turned police work into militarized urban warfare, and with the catchphrase spewing super cops of series like Hawaii Five-0,
Book 'em, Dano.
Kojak,
We love you, baby.
and Beretta.
Don't do the crime if you can't do the time.
These cops were far from weak or wounded. They were tough, sexy, and cool, roughing up crooks and performing incredible stunts.
We're gonna take this car and land it on that boat.
Then came the coolest cops of all. In 1984, Miami Vice put an MTV spin on the police procedural. With their tailored suits and sculpted stubble, Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas were the police as pop star.
How do you go from this tranquility to that violence?
I usually take the Ferrari.
And they patrolled a hyper-stylized Miami that was, as seen in the recently released Scarface, menaced by the kind of larger-than-life drug kingpins who could justify their ever-escalating violence. Across the 80s, action hero cops became even more slick and outlandish.
I'm jumping! Do you really want to jump?
Let's do it, asshole.
Often played by superhuman actors like Sylvester Stallone,
Your disease. And I'm the cure.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'm a cop, you idiot!
When updated as an 80s movie, even stoic, sober Dragnet traded authenticity for high-speed car chases,
Look out, Muppets!
armored tanks,
Thank God it's Friday!
and rap songs.
But don't you know we really ought to read them their rights?
Read them their rights. Read them their rights.
Die Hard, arguably the most popular cop movie ever made,
Welcome to the party, pal!
took an empathetically human cop in the Joseph Wambaugh mold, Bruce Willis's working stiff John McClane, then pitted him against a veritable army of Eastern European terrorists.
There are rules for policemen. Yeah. That's what my captain keeps telling me.
It wasn't even close.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother.
The hero cop has since become a cliche.
You busted up that crack house pretty bad, McGonagall. Did you really have to break so much furniture?
You tell me, Chief. You had a pretty good view from behind your desk.
But no matter how tired or overworked, the cop has never stopped being our most popular fictional profession.
Why don't you tell these men who we are?
Well, the law, bitch.
We put cops in workplace sitcoms and raunchy movie comedies. We partner them with dogs and cute kids. We can't seem to imagine a world that isn't filtered through a cop. Even the realms of the supernatural, the extraterrestrial,
I'm part of a bureau that licenses, monitors, and polices alien activity on the planet Earth.
or the fantastical. Not all of these cop stories may be outright propaganda, but the sheer number of hero cops over the years has served to reinforce a similar message. The cop is the protagonist. The cop story is the one that matters.
One cop heroically saving the day while everyone else stands around and watches. It's the story of my life.
Get ready for a lifetime of being badass, motherfucker.
Oh, I am.
I really thought this job would have more car chases and explosions.
This drama of the hero cop myth clashes with the uncomfortable reality of police work.
See this? It's a ticket book. Inside are things called tickets.
On TV and in movies, cops spend their days solving serious crimes and hauling in felons. But that's just not what police really do.
Ever fired your gun up in the air and gone, ah? No, I have not ever fired my gun up in the air and gone, ah.
According to a 2019 report by the Vera Institute of Justice, while police average 10.5 million arrests a year, the vast majority are for low-level offenses like drug possession or disorderly conduct, not the kind that make for good television.
We ain't done nothing. Seriously, I was just sitting in my chair reading the magazine is all.
From their earliest days, when police were tasked with quelling labor riots and keeping immigrants and newly freed slaves in line, the main function of police has been social control.
This marijuana right here? That wouldn't happen while you were sitting here?
In the hero cop myth, any threat to that control is the enemy.
Where the hell does it say you've got a right to kick down doors, torture suspects, deny medical attention and legal counsel? Where have you been?
Once, defense attorneys like Atticus Finch or Perry Mason, along with rogue private eyes, were our heroes for protecting the innocent and wrongfully accused.
I'm gonna kill some John for his bankroll. How can they say that? I got a record, they know me.
They're trying to make a motive out of your rap sheet.
But beginning with the premiere of Law & Order in 1990, defense attorneys were suddenly opportunistic sleazebags.
You are a parasite who leeches off
just like you,
the culture
man.
of...
I got the shotgun. You got the briefcase. It's on the game though, right?
Today, we empathize with hero cops as they forego warrants and beat confessions out of suspects. We're meant to see their rule-breaking and their violence as justified, to accept it as normal.
Please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, I said you can take the hand away, okay?
When we do see cops portrayed as overly violent or corrupt, they're usually painted as bad apples who end up getting taken down by the good cops.
Ronald Everett Gardaki, you're under arrest.
And even when good cops do bad things, we're meant to forgive them, to believe the guilt they feel is punishment enough.
I shot a kid. He was 13 years old. You know, when you're a rookie, they can teach you everything about being a cop except how to live with a mistake.
Or, more often, that they had no choice.
Look, that kid was a killer, all right? He would have drilled you, me, anybody that came along, all right?
In a 2020 study, the nonprofit Color of Change conducted a sweeping study of all crime shows on the air and found that 69% depicted authorities committing wrongful actions that were then normalized as routine, harmless, necessary, or even noble.
If I gotta bend the rules a little bit to get a bad guy off the street, I'm gonna do it.
But if I'm sure he's guilty and the case is gonna walk unless I raise my hand, I do what I gotta do.
These shows also ignored the racial biases that are often behind those actions.
So how's it all going in the torturing business, Dixon?
It's persons of color torturing business these days.
As the study points out, TV cops exist in a deceptively race-neutral world, where people of color are cast as cops and judges to lend their symbolic approval. Issues of profiling or police brutality are rarely discussed, save for very special episodes.
I got stopped by a cop last night.
Stop for what?
Stopped for walking.
From their cop's eye view, these stories portray an entire community as a potential threat.
Option 1 is we take him alive. And feel free to consider option 2.
Like most of the stories we tell ourselves, the hero cop myth is based in fear.
Word is, we got a hit on y'all, man. Y'all been greenlit.
Yeah, come on, man. We're cops. Everybody wants to kill us, Trey.
We fear rising crime even when statistics say it's actually going down. Police fear their communities because they've been trained to think of them as enemy combatants.
And when you're at war, you need an enemy. And soon the neighborhood that you're supposed to be policing, that's just occupied territory.
We fear there's no changing it, that this is just how it is.
Girl, you can't even call this shit a war.
Why not?
Wars end.
These fears then play out in the real world, because we fear that, when it comes to cops, the stakes are always life or death. That's exactly what they become. As protests erupted in 2020 over the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, and many other Black people at the hands of police, they prompted a widespread reevaluation of how we think about the police and police stories.
Believe it or not, watching cop shows makes a lot of people see the police as infallible.
This has already led to the cancellation of long-running reality series Cops, which for over 30 years turned policing into a spectator sport.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
And the similar R.I.P.D, a show that critics say spurred Texas police into a dramatic confrontation for the cameras that ended in the death of Javier Ambler. But what about all our other hero cops?
Metro units, 34th and Steinway, unidentified black male pretending to read book on park bench, probably armed.
Let's roll!
Amid calls for long overdue reform, there is the growing sentiment that our addiction to tidy narratives about infallible police may be holding us back.
Training Day, Lethal Weapon, and Fargo. End of discussion.
Wrong. Die Hard is the best cop movie of all time.
Even Brooklyn Nine-Nine's lovable, diverse goofball cops have been branded as copaganda for putting a cuddly spin on New York police.
Just eating some marshmallows. Care for one?
Marshmallow.
Series like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, ABC's The Rookie, and CBS's SWAT have all pledged to do better about addressing issues like racism and police brutality in their upcoming seasons. But we can also find new ways to fulfill our endless desire for crime stories. Series like Orange is the New Black have allowed us to locate the shared humanity in the convicted.
All problems are boring until they're your own.
While recent shows like ABC's For Life, Netflix's Jessica Jones, and HBO's Perry Mason have restored public defenders and private investigators as protagonists, working within a justice system that cannot always be trusted.
I don't trust the Los Angeles Police Department to do the job that's needed.
Neither would I.
And HBO's Watchmen has given us a model for a modern, more nuanced kind of cop show. One where police can still be heroes, solve mysteries, and even deliver high-octane thrills, all while addressing some of the ugly truths of policing itself.
Men who end up hanging from trees with secret compartments in their closets tend to think of themselves as good guys.
These are not the simple morality plays of good guys and bad guys that we're used to. But then, neither is the world. Maybe it's time the hero cop falls in line.
There is no one more full of shit than a cop, except for a cop on TV.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna.
I'm Deborah, and we're the creators of The Take.
Please subscribe and tell us what you want our take on next.
This video is brought to you by Skillshare, an online learning community that offers affordable classes designed to fit your schedule and your skill level. Skillshare is a great way to tap into a new supportive community that provides encouragement and inspiration. With classes on everything from graphic design to productivity hacks, you'll be immersed in a new creative world. One Skillshare original you can check out right now is Danielle Chris's class revealing 8 exercises to enhance your creativity, confidence, and career. Danielle will help you discover your creative superpower, silence self-doubt, and kickstart a new hobby. Right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers 2 months access to all their classes for free. But that's only if you're one of the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description below. So join today and jumpstart your creative journey.